Okay. Debayan Basu from Genuine Parts Company, principal software engineer, and one of our fine panelists today. You know, he volunteered. Sometimes I'll send out text about, not text, but messages about being on our panel. So honestly, if there's anyone in here that would ever want to be on our panel, we come back to Chicago in January, back out at the suburbs. Please message me, because I'm always looking for speakers. Teri Green, VP of Technology from Elevate, and we sat on the board of WeSees together for a little bit, so happy to see her here. And she's from my home state of St. Louis. Ellis Wong, who is going to moderate the panel today, and he has been amazing. Head of Infrastructure Engineering and Chief Information Security Officer at JST Digital. Ellis. Oh, okay, Ellis. All right. And Haley is new to FutureCon, and she just started for a month, and she happens to be my daughter. So a round of applause for Haley. She left the fashion industry in New York to come into cybersecurity, and we're happy to have her. So, all right. But she still lives in New York. So, all right. With that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Ellis, so let's welcome our panel.
Good afternoon, everyone. I know a panel here is standing between the prizes, which I think everyone's here really for, right? Just kidding. So basically, this is a panel will just cover a lot of the up-and-coming, current days, what's up-and-coming security threats, as well as actually insights and methods of how we can devise defense against them. So we'll keep it, we're up an hour, but we probably would dive into some subject areas a little bit deeper than others. We try to cover 4 topic areas today. So as everyone's been hearing today, it's basically AI and cybersecurity. We also will cover essentially quantum computing and post-quantum security threats. And then we'll turn our attention to some of the human side of cybersecurity leadership, especially burnout in our team. How do we, as leaders, basically manage the sustainability of our team? And then lastly, we'll cover how we present cyber as a business, cyber risk as a business value add for our companies. So with that, if we have time, we'll cover Q&As after each of the topical sections. So with that, I'd like to actually introduce the panel. We'll have each one basically introduce yourself, your role, your organization, and probably what is the most top of mind for you at the moment. If you can each give maybe about a minute or so of that intro, I appreciate it. We'll kick it off with Prabir.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Prabir Datta from Chicago. I run the company called Seceon.com, Seceon. We're all about protecting the cybersecurity assets by optimizing the fragmentation problem and the tool sprawl problem which the companies are having all across the enterprises, government agencies, as well as the Fortune 500 included. So we've been around for 11 years, and the goal is to automate the triage alerting process so that the practitioners like you all can sleep in peace. And the top of my mind at this point, I would say basically how to enable the revolution of AI-enabled computation and how to do it securely. And cybersecurity is right in the forefront of that, in the confluence of data, AI, and cyber. So,
awesome.
I'm Ron Zochalski. I'm just here for the free food, just so you know.
And the prizes,
and
I hope.
And the free handouts, just so you know that. No, I've been with government for 10 years, just about, and I also been a professor at IU for 16. I teach cyber. I developed a cyber mining at one of the satellite universities of IU, and I also, which was very hard to do, by the way. And then I also talk about dealing with government politicians, but anyway. So I also do data analytics, and you're probably thinking like, what's this guy doing? But then I got to look at data anyway. So and then I also do AI stuff. I just started doing AI, incorporated in my courses, just to give the students a flavor for it. But the government runs slow. I can tell you, if you ever want to get experience in change management, take a government job. I'll share that with you. It's the most experience you'll have in how to change people that don't want to change. All right. In Indiana, at least we don't all send our governors to jail, but we're okay. That's it. And then the biggest thing that I worry about, obviously, is shadow AI and just people that don't know how to use the tools.
Excellent point.
So hey everyone, good afternoon. I'm Debayan, Basu. I'm a principal IM engineer at Genuine Parts Company. Genuine Parts Company is a automotive parts reseller, and it's a parent company of brands like Napa Auto. They also have presence in Europe, APAC, and my responsibilities would be all enterprise authentication, B2B and consumers. And yeah, I think top of mind, I think like Ron mentioned, there's a lot of shadow AI happening, I'm sure, across the board, regardless of the size of the enterprise or the organization. People just tend to bring their own tool set. They have very little regard for the data they push into the AI when they're prompting. And there's also a lot of tool sprawl, which is another problem that we see, because there's a lot of tools which enterprises accumulate over time or tend to invest in net new. But then it's just hard to migrate or do a cleanup. Outside of my role at Genuine Parts, I am also part of a few working groups. So I contribute to the IAM working group at Cloud Security Alliance. I am also part of a couple of working groups at OpenID Federation. So that's about me. Thank you.
Thanks, Bayan.
Well, howdy, people. We say the best for last, not just last. So I'm Teri Green. I've been in technology about 18 years. I've been a CIO, I've been a CISO. I have worked at companies like IBM and TransUnion. I'm currently with Elevate as the VP of Technology, so everything technology falls under me. I'm really a CTO that don't want the chief title because I'm in my doctoral program, so I don't want it right now, which is why I stepped down initially from a chief title. I created the first children's book to teach kids the ethics in AI and cybersecurity. Then I built a curriculum on top of it for digital citizenship that measures emotional intelligence as well as artificial literacy. So it's the first system a school psychologist can go into as well as a teacher and figure out how they're trending. I also created the test standard that a lot of companies are using, being able to kind of go from implementation to AI to full, how they can stop thinking about ideas and go into full implementation. Elevate is actually won number 3 years in a row as the best company to work for in Chicago. So I am born and raised Chicago, but I do reside in Winsfield, Missouri, which is where me and Kim know each other.
Awesome. Thanks for all the intros. So let's dive right into the topics. Start with AI and cybersecurity. So as AI is already reshaping the playbooks for both the attackers and ourselves as defenders, I'd like to actually ask the panel on essentially how are attackers already using AI from your personal experience in scaling attacks, whether it's actually phishing or impersonations, deepfakes, and how you and your team as defenders get and expect next in terms of the AI-powered, AI-driven attacks and leveraging it. AI. So let me start with you, Prabir.
So I think, great question, by the way. Before we get into the depth of it, let's step backwards for 30 seconds and talk about the evolution of computing. we got 20 to 25 years back, internet becomes full scale, and it's kind of growing to internet 2.0, and now we have internet 3 and 4.0. In the middle of that, we have edge computing, where we had a small firewall, and we thought everything is secure and so on. And then that evolved to software-defined WAN computing, where basically firewall became virtualized because cloud became into being. Now we are talking about cloud-enabled computation with distributed assets, right? So that led to identity management, right? And we thought that credentials could solve that problem, having strong credentials. So, which is where things started breaking down last 5 years back. A proof of that is SolarWinds. The SolarWinds hack actually happened because somebody stole the asset first and then got into the compilation process with a malware. If you take the example of the MGM casino hack, which is the famous hack which brought $100 million down, almost a month the casino was out of operation. It started with a deep fake phone call, right, and stolen credentials. So the point is, as we move towards credentials management, we figured out that with AI, that could be bought out from the dark web. So we are. So,
Seriously, would you mess with MGM and the mob?
I know. They have the guts to do that.
Yeah, it's got to be. Yeah.
So, which is where we are talking about identity management. So, Gartner right now is saying that identity management is here to stay, and that's what will drive the computation of AI. So, to answer your question, where are we with AI and cybersecurity and computation? We already saw multiple hacks. Phishing emails is actually 83% is written by AI. Third-party risk management, from 50,000, we have 500,000 repos in public repos, which are malicious code and projects, right, and binaries. So the point we are making is, as AI evolves into a sustainable business model, we cannot be just waiting and watching what happens to the cybersecurity and the data computation front. So how do we deal with that? Well, in order to fight a war of missiles, we cannot just fight a war with bows and arrows. It has to be a war with missiles. So as the bad guys are teaming up with AI to buy AI off the shelf and compute and deploy malicious codes and malwares in seconds and minutes these days, the computation model in cybersecurity has to evolve from a tools-based approach to a contextual, universal representation, understanding of the behavior of the network. And that is where companies like Seceon have been, Torque is also partially doing that same, is we've been in the business of helping organizations across the entire spectrum, like you said, to really understand what it is to have many tools. And Debayan, you talked about that too. And having more tools does not equate more security.
Yep.
So to really understand the context, and once we understand the context of the behavior, 95% of the triage alert could be automated. So basically, we'll be using AI to automate the triage process by understanding and tracking the identity and the behavior of the traffic and taking action based on that.
So context and identity.
Yeah.
Ron, sounds like, actually, maybe can you talk Ron first? It looks like you have some, you want itching to go.
Ron, you go.
And then
I promise. I promise.
All right, so I'll give you a little bit different pitch on it. The problem where we're at a disadvantage, the adversary only has to use an AI tool to figure out one path, right? We have to protect all the paths. So the issue becomes, it becomes very taxing because it's kind of an unfair warfare. So, it's kind of almost like, like I've heard a lot of comments about, you got AI versus AI. It's not the better engine per se. okay? Because, I mean, if anybody watches racing or anything else, right, the better engine doesn't always win. Okay, if you learn it, you see in the current scale war right now that you see over there, well, yeah, you may have the best technology, but that may not be a strong point. What it is that we're gonna have to figure out what the realities are, and to your point, is to figure out like it comes down to an identity problem. Okay, I mean, if you know about residential proxies, okay, if you know that the Chinese have been infiltrating our home networks, like digital picture frames, all that cheap technology that comes in our homes, they learn from us, right? You know, from history. We've done this before ourselves in the United States. But they have actually put bugs in there and stuff and malware and are using proxies to get in our networks. Last estimate I saw, and that was actually found between Comcast and Microsoft, it's like 20 million, okay? So if you're looking at some kind of attacks like that, you have to know where the vectors are at. And the thing with the AI tools, unfortunately, for the adversary side, is that they're actually able to do a lot of reconnaissance work and figure out what's going where and who's doing what. So, I mean, there's no way, you know darn well that we've got to defend way too much. I mean, you see it in all different types of things. Okay, so we have to think about, you know, where the identities are. You know, I mean, come on, most of the organizations we work for can't even figure out where most of our assets are at. Okay, if you think about it, right? How long has this been a problem? 30 years. Okay, right? I mean, there's just not, I mean, you just don't, I mean, you think it would be fixed. I saw some cyber vendors, and no offense to anybody, but like they're putting a asset management program out. Who's going to enter that data in? Really? Okay, so we don't know where our stuff's at. So how can I defend something I don't know where it's at? And then you got bring your own devices. Oh, what a blast that is, right? Because you can't protect some of the stuff. So AI, the nice thing about AI is that we could find our vulnerabilities. Obviously, the Mythos issue, right? NSA found out they weren't as secure as they thought they were, right? So, and then, you know, we got to, you know, basically, you know, the residential proxies is done by Russian intelligence. So, you know, you've got a lot of, you know, you got a lot of threat actors that know what they're doing. We just been asleep at the, I mean, how many companies bought the cheap camera systems from China, right? A lot of smaller companies couldn't afford an expensive camera system. So they put it in there, right? So guess what happens? It's all compromisable. So there's a lot of attack vectors that we as individuals, you know, we as security professionals, it's a tough job.
Yep. Thanks, Ron. Terry, you want to?
I think Ron covered it.
Okay. So, basically, essentially, the proliferation of non-human identity is really one of the biggest risk factors these days. Exactly. So, in fact, the recent Trend Micro research report, basically 82% of the actual deployments actually lack any real so-called digital identities for the bots or the AIs. They're all using shared accounts or just the shared keys. So now let's turn to actually next question. What AI use cases in your respective companies in securing actually delivering value, and are they actually introducing noise, or they actually raising the risk exposure? So let's start with Teri then.
It's my birthday? Okay.
Yes.
I promise to kick it to you, I promise. Okay, so like, personally for me, I think it would be like SOC co-pilots. You can see the highest value of return on investment.
Yep.
Instead of having analysts spending 20 to 30 minutes, you know, kind of going through data. We can do that in a faster rate of speed. And that's where I've been able to kind of see it. But to kind of a caveat from what we actually see coming is the agents that we're actually deploying can also become our detriment at the same time if we don't put some permission controls around them.
Yep.
So eventually you will see, unfortunately, Mr. Ron, AI versus AI. But it'd be AI defender against AI attacker, right? And we have to be able to make sure that we're kind of putting our vigilance around that.
How about asking that guy that gave an order at Taco Bell for 18,000 cups of water and blew right through the AI agent?
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, there's people like me when I was younger. I would do stuff like that. So, I mean, if you think about it, anybody that's been doing this, you were creative when you were a kid, right? That's what it is. So you have to go back and think like when you were a kid. When you do, come on. You always try to get something out of something for free. I used to shake the vending machine down when I was in college. So anyway. Did I say that? No.
I hope that answered your question.
Yes, certainly.
Okay, thank
So, actually, Debayan, you want to add some perspective, especially you as a system architect, right? What do you see as value add for your team?
So I think AI obviously, like Teri and Ron mentioned, it obviously gives you Copilot or a compute or an enhanced compute flavor. But I would want to take a step back because I know we are all, like looking at AI as this new shiny thing. But the problem is, AI obviously multiplies the problem, put in an exponential graph, but we still have bad data, right? We still have processes that are broken, that are siloed, that doesn't work end to end.
Who has bad data? Not me. Hey, I'm government. We have accurate data.
No, you guys believe offline is secure.
That's right. I'm sorry. You gotta laugh, man. We're 4 o'clock crowd.
Absolutely.
So
So I think one of the few places where, or at least we started exploring very early, was having a common interface across tooling, because each of these tools, like we discussed about the data being siloed, and then each of these platforms have their own AI interface. Like if you look at just identity and access management or governance, for example, like SailPoint has their own interface AI. Ping has their own Ask Assistant, whatever. So there's a lot of tools, right? But there's nothing that's gonna, map all those dots and gonna give you a full picture of what's going on in your environment. So I think that was one of the things that we were trying to develop, and also as a companion for people who are trying to interact with different teams. I think because security, like we learned during the keynote and across different sessions, business kind of tends to look at security as, the resistance, which it really is not, right? And it's not like, I know. No, I'm not. I'm just like in general, so because the teams are very technical, and I agree with what Boki mentioned about communication. So we're not always the best communicators, and that's barring you, Ron. So essentially, this was our way to get out of that and use AI to an advantage where, hey, we know we lack this part, but then we're going to let people interact with this tooling to understand, what do they need, what access do they need, or what might be happening, why they can't sign in, or whatever, so on and so forth. And it would invoke tools and the APIs for them in the background. It would render results for them.
So it's basically without the proper guardrails, especially air gapping some of the controls to and avoid serious propagation of risk and vulnerabilities down the stream is really what we face on every day these days. I mean, you heard of the OpenClaw, and 40,000 of them were totally exposed within the first month or so. Yeah.
Well, the thing is, we're probably, what Anthropic said, we're about 6 to 12 months away from the adversaries having a mythos. Okay? So we got about 18 months, roughly. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's 6 to 12 months before they have the same tool as Mythos.
Yeah.
I'm not building that, so I don't know, but I can tell you right now, I mean, we got 18 months to get serious about this thing. We don't have the same, because what do we do before? We find out about it, okay, fix it, patch it, okay, get it out there. We had a lot of time on our side we don't now. because all they need is one path. So
Yep.
I just thought I'd make people aware, you know, it's a little more critical than it has ever been.
Well, Ron, haven't they always just needed one
So-
That's why we have 99 probability only needed one opportunity.
That's true, but we have to defend it.
We got to defend against
So-
people. And
That's, yeah, there's certainly a lot we can cover, but I don't want to, yeah, we can spend hours on this, but I'd like to actually maybe move on to the next topic area. There's a lot to cover. So what we're seeing is the AI certainly drives the acceleration of both the risks as well as the actually our capabilities. Now, there's actually one nascent but actually fast evolving risks that I think are even more foundational that we have to look into, which is the risk of quantum computing capable computers cracking essentially RSA, elliptic curve cryptography. Those quantum computer capabilities built for such security, basically such algorithms. So, wanted to cover, dive into the risk of quantum. Let's start with essentially, when do we all think that there's a so-called cryptographically capable quantum computer that will be ready to crack RSA and ECC? We call that the Q day. So I wanted to actually ask the panel, from your, actually, as an architect, Debayan, would you like to share a little bit more? When do you believe that quantum computing would be realistically able to affect our encryption and be able to, more importantly, are you actually doing anything to explain that risk to your executives now?
So PQC as a term has been there for like 8-9 years now. It was all on the roadmap that, hey, we know that there's going to be one day when this quantum computers are going to be there. It's going to crack open all the RSA encryptions and ECs that we have. But, you know, over the last couple of years, NIST did release their recommendations on, you know, I think there was 203 and 204 and 205. So essentially, what are we talking about? Post-quantum cryptography. So if you look at just encryption, right? There's encryption at rest, encryption at transit, right? If you're talking about encryption in transit, that's where the whole TLS pieces play in, the RSAs and EC algorithms are there for certificate, for encrypting the traffic in transit. If you look at encryption at rest, that typically happens over symmetric encryption. And AES, there's a recommendation, okay, AES 128, don't do that, move over to AES 256. But that's kind of relatively still immune to PQC or quantum computing attacks. But essentially what we've learned from Gartner is that 2030 is the year that they're targeting that, okay, hey, we need to be PQC enabled by 2030, right? Which gives us 3.5 years to get our act together. Most companies, they are kind of in this PQC readiness stage where they are building inventories of the different algorithms that are in the play. They're looking at what all legacy systems are there, stuff that are still using TLS 1.2, which should ideally move to 1.3. That's essentially the situation right now. And even if you look at the algorithms per se, NIST did mention or recommend going with lattice-based or stateless hashes. There are hybrid certificates that are being used today. So if you look at Cloudflare or Google or all of these CAs that are issuing certificates, there is obviously a traditional component to it, which is either the RSA or the EC certificate, and they are encoding that PQC data as a how do I put it, non-mandatory or an optional payload into that. So it is still compatible with legacy systems, but it will have a signature which depending on who is validating, can check whether it's a PQC, which is a PQC-enabled algorithm. So that's kind of where we are. I don't know if you guys have any other insights to share on this.
Ron, do you want to add anything to it?
We do actually, the old U.S. Steel mill on the south side there is actually going to be the first quantum computing center, which I think is awesome for Chicago. They lost a lot of their technology, so they're finally going to build something. So we're actually going to see some real innovation, I think, and on the positive side. I think it's a good thing. But as far as the encryption risk, yeah, it's going to be there. And then just as you explained it, it's just going to have to we're going to have to transfer it to it. Because when is the date for the actual quantum computing?
There's really no date, but I think there are three timelines that really need to.
2027.
Right. So the CSNA
Yeah.
actually procurement gate, basically kicks off on January 1st, 2027.
Right.
So it means all federal systems must be
Crypto.
basically quantum resistant, crypto ready.
Right.
And the other thing is you have to, it's the actually data half-life. Think about the data assets that you have that actually has a long 10, 15-year life cycle. That data, those data sets are already exposed to what's referred to as harvest now, decrypt later attacks. The adversaries don't really need to have the crypto-capable computers today. All they need to do is collect them and store them securely, and it's basically rely on patience to be able to crack it open within essentially, whether it's actually 5 years from now, 3 years from now, basically they just need to sit on the data. Think about.
Go on to the next question then, because you kind of covered.
So do you basically want to cover, Teri, do you wanted to add anything to it?
I'm gonna add some to the second question, but
Okay.
to kind of the caveat, right, guys? You do have a time frame between 3 to 5, right? And it's like we're talking about the LLMs, the language models, but we're not talking about the transitions, which the language models are actually sitting on. So I
Yes.
think it's contingent about how fast they actually can get that superseded. If they supersede that, then the quantum computing will go faster rate of speed. So the timeline will probably move up quicker than that from a technical perspective.
Just something to keep in mind for yourself. The actual transition window itself usually takes 4 to 5 years, and that potentially be within certainly the window for when the cryptographically relevant quantum computer appears. All right, let's move on to the next topic. Basically, we're all as leaders here trying to lead our team with sustainability. How do we maintain the team in such that the balance of keeping keeping the house safe, so to speak, while making sure that our team do not get into the burnout. Now, we basically face the triangle, right? How do we deliver faster? How do we actually continue to meet regulator requirements and compliance? And finally, how do we scale our team? We can't really scale security talents in the same rate as developers. So when we got to the first question here on how do we maintain leadership while making sure that the team doesn't burn out. So what are the biggest drivers of burnout on your cyber team today? And how do leaders protect your teams during the major incidents? So Prabir, you want to take that first? Yeah.
So, I think many speakers talked about the noise ratio, right? We have huge noise, when it comes to triaging. So taking care of the tools and taking care of the automation process ground up, not top down. So when attacks happen, we tend to look top-down, but as a governing body, the GBC, Global Governing Council of Cybersecurity, and that has to be a mandate at the board level going forward, which actually many large organizations actually take care of. Just like there used to be compliance is a board mandate, ESG is a board mandate. Now, cybersecurity has to be a board mandate. Once it is a board-driven mandate, then there'll be proper budgeting allocation, and it becomes a bottom-up process where proper governing statutes are in place. So that means if we fix the problem from the root and not from the leaf level, then a lot of problem actually gets solved. And how to solve that problem? Number one is to have that maturity of emotional intelligence. When attacks happen, as a CIO, we shouldn't go and say, hey, why is this happening? What are you doing about it? Well, there's another way to say the same thing. How can I help you? Right? It's about empowerment and giving, like Bookie talked about, the message of emotional intelligence in cybersecurity is extremely important to have a team which is stress-free. Half of the problem is gone. The other half is about the toolings. How many of you think more tools equals more security? It's not, right? So we have to solve that. Right tool, yes. Less is more.
Less is more.
Yeah.
I don't need 48 of them.
There you go, exactly. So we have to solve the tool sprawl problem. The way to fix that is basically understand the context of each of the identity behavior and making sense of that and cross-correlate it using AI. And that is the power of the next generation compute coming in cybersecurity. And once we have the right automation tools in place, 95% of the SOC can be done in automated manner. Humans come in to drive the process because at the end, humans control the decision making, right? So that is where 50% of the other stress level actually can be eliminated. And having a decent, healthy atmosphere to kind of marrying both sides is extremely important to going forward. But it has to be driven, going back to my earlier observation, has to be done from the board mandate. Once that is in the board level mandate, then the rest of the process becomes easy as a company culture and mindset. You talked about changing people's mindset, right? Change management.
There's an AI policy, isn't there? Get it out there.
Actually, may I turn to Teri first? I think I'd love to hear more about essentially your, especially inspiring program where you introducing the EQ with the AI for the regional schools.
So are we going to talk about burnout, or we're going to just go straight to that system? So like, the truth of the matter is, I think we're moving relatively quick, right? And we're actually becoming the biggest problem. It's not AI. I think AI is artificial. We are the intelligence. And AI cannot be held accountable for our actions. So it's basically, even within the tool set that we're using within the educational system, is teaching them explicitly what actually AI touches from a data perspective. Because if you don't know what it touches, as Ron alluded to, you can't secure it, right? And then how is it, from an E perspective, how is it executed, right? Like, there's a variation difference. We use the term AI very broadly, and the people be saying it's a tool set. No, a hammer is a tool. Excel is a tool. A chatbot can be a tool. But then you have to go into these different, when you start talking about agentic AI, now we're talking about like an actor within the business. So it has to be treated differently, having some granularity in that. And based on how the kids are actually answering questions, we're teaching them what a deepfake looks like. They don't know when a system is asking them for too much information, yet this is the tool set that they're on a daily basis, right? And guys, this is what I did for fun, so don't judge me. But we did win the Literary Titan Award, and the book is actually have sold 48,000 copies with no promotion. So it's something I'm very proud of, because I'm taking the money to put back in scholarships to kind of build up knowledge sets for kid sets, or even school leaders within the technology system in their educational elements, right? So we did partner with Google to be able to kind of do a Google Grow program, so we can help. A lot of schools are using either Microsoft or Google, and we can be able to teach them how to do this with efficacy and get AI certifications for free. We can give them the scholarships. So it's just different things we're trying to do. And then for the students, so I went from orphan to CIO, and I remember I used to hate it. And yes, right here in Chicago. And one thing I hated is when I went through Annie Mae. They would ask the dumbest question ever. Are you going to brush your teeth with a toothbrush or a hairbrush? Depending on how pissed off I was that day, it would be how I would answer that question. So I thought about that as we actually experienced things. And I didn't even realize I had a genius IQ until I was in my second bachelor's. I have been working on my 6th degree. So when you think about those type of things for people that look like me, I want to be able to kind of give them a different element and a different experience so we can be able to kind of get a hold of it quicker. I stayed in school suspension because I wasn't challenged. I was a great kid.
So,
I was bad because I was smarter than the teacher.
so your theme is basically, well, start with back to Prabir, essentially, basically more tool doesn't mean it's more secure. So actually I want to get a sense from the ground floor level. So Debayan, I wanted to hear from you what you see as especially automation with AI now proliferating across the different organizations. Do you see any pressure being shifted from essentially an AI team to security or other functions in the company?
So I think I would take that back. So last year, we had this eagerness across the board to adopt AI. And that was across the board, right? Regardless of which line of work you're in, what's the job function. But I think a lot of these automations right now have become more intentional, just not for the sake of automation. People are actually realizing where AI yields value and where it doesn't. So it's a lot more focused as to what we're doing with AI this year, and it obviously does shift, your the focus. First of all, secondly, when you talk about AI, and we all talked about that AI, it is an identity and authorization problem, right? Or that's what it brings in, right? So identity, it is everyone's shared responsibility. So I would think that's the message that we would have to socialize with across the board, where we are, we are making people accountable for what they are using AI for, and also understanding that AI is an identity. It's a shared identity aspect.
Thanks for the good exploring. Why don't we actually now, we're running a bit behind time. So let's shift to actually the topic of cyber risks is essentially now a business execution issue. I think Prabir already touched on it earlier, that basically security has to be on the same par as essentially your other sales or revenue functions. So let me ask essentially the panel here, what does a business-aligned cybersecurity leadership look like in practice? How do you justify or basically propose certain investments to your senior leadership? So let me start with Jerry. It sounds like you already
Jerry.
have. Teri.
Oh, Los Santos. Hey, so ironically, I don't know what Ron's talking about right now, but to answer your question, I think business aligned cybersecurity leadership actually is thinking about how you optimize the business with technology versus
Yep.
mandating and maximizing controls, right? I think a lot of cybersecurity people think the more mundane and the more stringent the controls are, that has nothing to do with the mission of the organization. We are an enablement. And when you start actually making sure that your AI security or your cybersecurity risk module is actually nested within their 2 to 3 year mission, I think you'll be a more viable, I haven't heard the word no from a board over the last 9 years, and people ask why, because I'm very, very meticulous on what every department goal is, and then I actually look at it and I make sure it's something I can add within it. So if we're all going towards a specified goal and 3 people can achieve it with one actual initiative,
Yep.
they're not going to say no because everybody wants to actually succeed. So just being really strategic in that matter can be able to kind of show what it will look like in practice, from my understanding. But security is no longer a function of the organization. Y'all got to get with the program.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Terry. Very excellent point. Ron, do you want to add anything to it? Yes, sir.
It's basic. You got to keep it very simple, and it's all about you have to have a plan. You have to have the board. I mean, this is common. It all depends on the reporting structure. It really does. It depends on, because if you're reporting to a CFO, it's obviously cost driven, right? So it's going to be based on cost. Go to COO, he's going to look at operational effectiveness. Okay, so if you got a shot where if CEOs are going to take it serious, the only way security is going to get a position is if they report to the CEO direct. And the board,
so-
and then, I mean, I'm just being straight up.
Ter-
But it-
Terry is shaking her head here. So
Yeah.
Absolutely shaking my head. I report to the COO, and prior to coming in here,
Yeah.
I was talking with my COO. My CEO walks in the meeting. I mean, it wasn't even a meeting, but she walks in, and specifically, she trusts me enough to actually talk directly to me, right? So, I don't report to her, but I still have to meet her.
It's about the relationship, though. That's the difference.
Oh, my God.
Look at that.
Michael. Yeah, but that's part
that's
of
the
it.
trust. You build
Yeah,
trust.
yeah.
Yes.
And I think a lot of cybersecurity people don't know how to speak business terms.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Yes.
But it's basically talking humans so they don't get scared away. I mean, because if you go in there with all these kind of tools you want, you're like, they don't understand it. So, no, it's all about what are you going to lose, right? Okay, so if this goes down, what do you want? You want to lose market exposure? You want to use market share? You got to position it that way. How long is it going to take you to recover your visibility in the marketplace compared to your competitors? And that's how you talk to them.
Yep. Prabir?
To Terry, to your point, if ever your CEO or COO says no, you explain to him what no means. New opportunity.
You never look at nothing as a negative,
Yeah,
right? Everything's
yeah.
always a positive.
And for new or for opportunity, right? So at the end, when we are talking the CFO language, Ron, you touched on that. If there is a ransomware attack, the problem with cybersecurity protection is just like auto insurance, it's not mandatory, unlike auto insurance. If it was made mandatory, then there wouldn't be any questions asked. Because it becomes a board level right away at the drop of a hat. So the way to do that at this point without any laws is to ensure that you talk the same language. One of the example being sunken opportunity cost. Ron touched on that. When you have 7 days of MGM casino, $100 million opportunity cost is lost. Revenue is lost, right? So that's the language we're talking about here. So.
That's how I would say it to the CFO. So it's about knowing the personnel.
Yeah.
So like Ron alluded to, the COO don't care about how much it costs. The CFO does, right? So being able to kind of speak to them in their terms. I don't waste people's time. I don't like my time wasted either. So making sure I know my personnel and I'm coming in is how I always walk away with a yes.
Excellent. Yep. Okay. Well, so I think that we're at this point where I'd like to actually open the floor for a couple of questions. I know we probably have about 5 minutes, 2 minutes. So one question, or if there's no question, actually, I'd like to ask the panel maybe just have a quick 30-second final note for the audience here. Any?
You're so loud.
All right, so, so how about Prabir, any final thoughts you want to leave for the audience here? As something to take away for them?
Yeah, takeaway is not many tools. More tools is not the answer. More AI is not the answer because more AI means more risk. So it's about ROI-driven business decision and having the right automation with the right tools in place is the answer, and that's all. So.
Excellent. Ron, maybe 20 seconds?
I'm going to agree with this. The KISS principle, keep it simple.
Answer. Prabir? You're Debayan?
All right. So one thing, the final thoughts. So I think if I talk about just my own space, IAM, I think we've almost had 20 years to solve authentication since we talked about federation and SAML and everything in between. I think with AI coming in, the focus shift towards authorization, and that is the topic at the moment, right? How do you authorize agents? What do you authorize for? What they can do? What's the intent? What's the action? And where's the full 100% visibility, right? And as long as you or your enterprise can answer these questions, I think you're pretty much in a golden spot.
Teri?
Listen, y'all, I'm gonna say this real clear. Policy without enforcement is theater. It doesn't matter how many policies you create. If you can't get people to actually buy into them, understand that for the longest time, we told people they was the weakest link 70% of the time, right? Well, guess what? That's the same population AI is dancing all over. So get the people together. You have to be able to kind of figure out a way where AI governance and security is going to meet at the same rate of speed. And we know that's been one of the things we have been fighting for years. This is the best opportunity right now to figure it out before things like quantum computing and transistors start elevating before you can even catch it, okay? Go fight, win. Go fight, win.
All right. All right, thanks, everyone. Let's put our hands and thank our distinguished panel here. So appreciate all the insights. Yeah. All right, well, okay, we're ready. Kim, yep.
Oh, she's right.
Awesome.
Okay, once again,